Lambert for bringing this video to my attention. Now, this video is almost a year old. I think it was published back in October of 21 by Courtney Ryan. Now, I've heard of Courtney Ryan here and there, but I've never really paid attention to her because female dating coaches are useless. I mean, bless their hearts for trying to help, but they don't help anybody. And this is men and women. Courtney Ryan's no different. I'm not saying she's a bad person or anything like that. She seems nice enough. But I think we know and understand that women give terrible dating advice at worst, useless advice at best, and that's putting it lightly. Now, before I start, I want you guys to understand that I'm not attempting to be mean-spirited here. I'm sure Courtney is a nice person. I don't know her personally, so I'm not going to personally attack her. However, Miss Ryan is another in a long line of attractive female dating coaches that don't really help anybody. I've never heard of an unattractive female dating coach or a matchmaker ever. Courtney is simply using her attractiveness to make a living, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's not pretend that she's at almost 400,000 subscribers because of her talking points. No, she's at almost 400,000 subscribers because of the way she looks. Again, nothing wrong with that, but let's call a spade here. So let's dive in and see what Courtney Ryan has to say about body count.
Everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and today I have a very hot topic to talk about, and that is body count. And the reason why I decided to make a video about this is because probably every day I get questions that say, Courtney, what are your opinions on body count? Courtney, what do I do if this girl has a high body count? Courtney, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? What do you think about body count? So today I'm gonna...
Here's problem number one. Men are asking her for dating advice. Gentlemen, this is a mistake. Courtney can't tell you how to be attractive to women because she's not a man. She knows how to attract men, but she has no idea how to attract and maintain the attraction of modern women. So right out of the gate, she lets us know that men are actually seeking dating advice from a woman, and this will inevitably lead to heartbreak at worst, wasted time at best. Let's continue.
I'm going to go over body count and what I think about it, and I'm also going to touch on hookup culture as well, because obviously the two go hand in hand. So when we're talking about body count here, there's a ton of different things to consider, but I want to start with the most obvious one. My point number one being, it's up to you. If body count matters to you, that's totally fine. If body count doesn't matter to you, that's fine too. This is a very personal thing. Sex and intimacy and hookups are a very personal thing. So if you're not okay with the person you're with sleeping with a ton of people before you, then that's your opinion and that's okay. You're allowed to think that.
Courtney is confusing personal preference with biological imperatives, which are two very different things. When someone says, well, if that's their preference, they're 100% correct. But better than 9 times out of 10, they're referring to a preference that involves a woman's decisions, such as attention-seeking behaviors, hoe tendencies, body count, just to name a few. Yes, every man has different physical preferences to some degree. Some men like blondes, some men like brunettes. Some men like large breasts, some men like small breasts, some men don't care. Some men like a big booty, some don't. Some men prefer white girls, some men prefer black women, some don't. Physical preferences vary from man to man, and those are the preferences I'm referring to here. But fundamentally, most men want the same things from women. A woman who is fit, feminine, friendly, obedient, submissive, who isn't or ever was the town bicycle. Okay, so one man likes large-breasted blondes, and another likes small-breasted redheads. But fundamentally, they are both repulsed by promiscuity as far as long-term relationships go. And this is where Miss Ryan misses the mark here. A man caring about a woman's body count isn't a choice. It isn't a preference. It is his biological firmware doing its job in ensuring the paternity of his offspring. Shout out to Rollo Tomasi. Manosphere Highlights Daily often says that attraction isn't a choice, and he's 100% right. Women can't turn off being attracted to men who are over 6 feet with chiseled jaws and washboard abs any more than a man can turn off his trepidation about committing to a woman with a high body count. A negative response to promiscuity is Mother Nature's way of making sure men can pass on their genes without another donor contaminating his legacy.
I've heard a lot of women say things like, a real man wouldn't care about body count, and I simply have to disagree with that. It's a preference just like anything else that are based on the decisions that someone has made. So that would be like saying a real woman doesn't care about how much money a guy makes. Well, that's a preference just like anything else that had decisions the guy made that led up to how much money he's making most likely. And I know those comparisons aren't necessarily identical because when you make the decision to sleep with someone, you sleep with them. That's kind of the end of it. But a guy can make a decision to, be be a lawyer and something could not work out, or he might not make as much money as someone else. So there's a ton of other factors that go into the second example I gave there. But when you're making decisions to sleep with people, you're just sleeping with people. That's another number onto your body count. And that's really all there is to it. There's not really anything else that goes into it. It's as simple as that.
Courtney is dead wrong here. No, sleeping around isn't just a number. It's not just a notch or a tally that just goes onto a scoreboard. No, giving your body to a man gives him a piece of your soul. Sex is far more emotional for women than it is men. That's why sex affects us differently. For Miss Ryan to minimize body count as just the number, that is dangerous for both men and women. Because that number determines a few different things. Number one, how quickly she can actually pair bond. Number two, how likely she is to be unfaithful. Number three, the likelihood of paternity fraud when and if she suckers someone into thinking that she's not promiscuous. And number four, the amount of male DNA floating around in her. When a man ejaculates into a woman, she doesn't just urinate his DNA out. No, some of that DNA is absorbed into the vaginal wall. You can't tell me that a woman who's got the DNA of 78 men floating around in her won't look, act, and smell differently than a woman with just one man's DNA in her. That's just physiological common sense. So no, Courtney, sleeping with someone isn't just a number for a woman. Her body count is the determining factor for many different things.
So really, my point in saying that is that it's a preference someone has based on the decisions that the other person made. And I don't think that we should be guilt tripping people into caring or not caring. It's a personal preference, and I'm simply not okay with shaming someone based off of their preference. So whether you care or whether you don't, that's totally up to you, and that's a personal decision. And I don't think we should be shaming each other for what we decide to do with our lives and with our bodies. You just simply don't have to be with a person that does that. If you're a guy who doesn't want to be with a girl that slept with a ton of people, that's fine. That's a preference. Leave it at that. But you also don't have to go around and shame the girls that decide to do that. You can just choose not to be with them. It's really as easy as that. And quite frankly, it's none of your business.
Ay, Miss Ryan. So on one hand, she doesn't want to shame men for deciding body count doesn't matter. But in the same breath, she tells us we shouldn't shame women for sleeping around. This is why you cannot trust the advice of female dating coaches. She is doing her level best not to piss off either side. This is the same politically correct jibber jabber that people use to make sure they don't offend the other side. On the flip side, now it seems to be working out for her as far as the numbers go. Attractive woman plus talking about relationships multiplied by not being polarizing equals a shit ton of subscribers. So I'll give her full marks for the strategy, even though it's not something I would or really could do, as I am slightly below average looking, who is clearly polarizing. Anyway, she reiterates that caring about body count is a personal decision. It's not. It is a decision that is made for us when we are conceived. Caring about a woman's body count is as involuntary as a man's height or a man going bald. We don't have control over either of those, so again, it's not a personal preference or decision. Then she talks about shaming women for being 304s and why we shouldn't do it. She says that if we don't want to be with promiscuous women, then just don't be with them, and it's as easy as that. Wrong again, Courtney. Most women in the West are promiscuous, so it's impossible for men to just not be with them because most men in this part of the world have exorbitant body counts. Men holding out for women who have low body counts is the same as most women going after the top 15 to 20% of men. The reason why we shame 304s is because 304s are always bitching to us about why we don't want to put a ring on the finger of a woman who has the body count of 4 baker's dozens. If these girls just slept around, accepted their fate as perpetually single women, or women who get passed around and eventually married to men they don't really want, we wouldn't say anything. But men like us are routinely attacked for something we have no control over, which is a gag reflex to promiscuity. As I said before, women can't control who they're attracted to, and because of that, I will never be the guy who shames them for something they have no control over. Tall, muscular men produce tall, muscular offspring, and those offspring have a much higher likelihood of being selected to mate, ergo natural selection. Shaming women for being attracted to attractive men is the same as women shaming men for not committing to women who've been passed around for a decade plus. We don't have control over that, Courtney. No one had to sit us down and say, okay, little Donovan, when you become an adult, stay away from women who sleep around. No. We inherently understand and are repulsed by promiscuous women as far as long-term relationships go. Yeah, we'll smash them all day long, but as far as commitment goes, men with options don't commit to women who sleep around, and it's as easy as that. If 304s would just own the fact that they're damaged goods because of their promiscuity, we'd be good with that. But Courtney, nobody's randomly walking up to girls and saying, hey, you're a 304. No, The reason we talk about 304s is because they're always in our faces trying to tell us that we're somehow flawed because we don't want to commit to the physical equivalent of a sperm bank. And even if that weren't the case, I can talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. If I want to talk about the promiscuity of 304s unprovoked, then that's what the hell I'm going to do. And remember, we are shaming their choices. These are decisions made of their own free will and volition. Actions have consequences, Miss Ryan, and that's all there is to that. Then she slips up right at the end and shows us a glimpse of her true self when she says, and quite frankly, it's none of your business. Au contraire, Miss Ryan. Now, if I'm just looking to smash and dash, I don't care about her body count. But a woman's body count is absolutely my business if I'm thinking about committing my time, energy, attention, and resources into her. It is definitely my business if I'm trying to decide whether or not to start a family with a particular female. This is where Miss Ryan exposes herself as the typical American female. Now, she is American and she is female, so this was bound to happen. But telling a man that a woman's body count is none of his business is nothing more than indignance at the audacity that a man would approach a woman who appears to have promiscuous proclivities with caution. It's none of your business is another way of saying you're not entitled to critical information that is a determining factor in the success of a relationship and or family.
And the second point is that people can change. So someone's past does not necessarily define their future, and we all have a past. Nobody is perfect, and I'm not even saying that you have to be okay with that, but just understand if your hesitation is because you think just because someone did something in the past that they're going to do it in the future. That's not always the case, and people can change for the better, and whether you want to give them the benefit of the doubt is totally up to you, but just understand that if someone does something, it doesn't mean they're going to be like that forever. There are plenty of people who are alcoholics and then they get the help that they need and they live the rest of their life happy and healthy and they never drink again. Or there are people who cheated on a girlfriend when they were young and made a huge mistake and would never cheat again. So just understand that people can change. Someone's past sexual history does not 100% guarantee their future sexual experiences.
And here she goes with the same rhetoric 304s use. We all have a past. Nobody's perfect. Our past doesn't define our future. If this really were the case, Miss Ryan, then why do women divide their body counts by 24? Because they too understand that sleeping around makes them unattractive for a long-term relationship. If women really believed that their past didn't define their future, they'd all be honest about their body counts. I'll give an example. Banks use a person's past to determine whether or not they're going to approve them for a loan or extend them a line of credit. Yes, there are people who've had great credit, got the loan or the mortgage, and defaulted on the payments. Yes, there are people who have not so great credit, get high interest loans, and make all their payments on time. But by and large, banks use a person's financial past to determine how much they're going to let them borrow. Me walking into a bank with a 450 credit score, getting turned down for a loan, then saying, well, wait a minute, just because I've made late payments and defaulted on loans in the past doesn't mean I'm going to do it again in the future, is exactly like a woman saying to a man with options, well, wait a minute, just because I slept around all through my 20s and cheated on my boyfriends doesn't mean I'll do it to you. Banks don't trust a person's word. They trust what's on the credit report. A person with a higher credit score is far more likely to make their payments on time than a person with a low credit score. Just like a woman with a low body count is far less likely to cheat on you than a woman with a high body count. And if we haven't learned anything over the past half century, we have certainly learned to never take what a woman says at face value. No, a woman's sexual past doesn't 100% guarantee their sexual future, but it's a damn good indicator, just like a person's credit report is a good indicator in terms of their financial reputation. And the alcoholic example was a bad one. We all know that once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, and alcoholics will tell you that. Any alcoholic who stays sober over an extended period of time does their level best to keep themselves out of situation that could lead to a relapse. My good friend Ed Lattimore, who will be 9 years sober on December 23rd, he doesn't go to the bar. He doesn't go to mixers. He stays away from those environments because he knows he has that disease. Him being sober for almost 9 years doesn't just all of a sudden take away the temptation. Yes, people can change. There are women out there who are epic 304s who no longer engage in those activities. But like the people with bad credit who make their payments on time, those people are few and far between.
Sadly, when I was in college, I watched a lot of my friends go through this, and it negatively impacted their mental health and also the level of commitment to their future partners. I have never had a one-night stand or been into the hookup culture thing, and watching my friends go through this and how miserable they were was enough for me to know I never, ever wanted to be a part of that because they're selling you a lie.
Oh boy, here we go. The snowflaking. So Miss Ryan says she's never had a one-night stand or was ever into the hookup culture. Now, could she be telling the truth? Sure. Is she telling the truth? I don't know. You decide. Let's just lay out the facts. First, she appears to be the only attractive woman who stayed away from hookup culture and one-night stands because she saw what her friends were going through. I have never met a woman who looks like her, who went to college, who did the opposite of what her college friends were doing. Birds of a feather flock together, as the saying goes, and Miss Ryan would have us believe that even though all her friends were involved in hookup culture on campus, she knew that they were being sold a lie. Even though everything around women these days tells women that sleeping around is okay, she's the one female who was not influenced by her friend or the college campus. She's the one girl who just magically knew that feminism sold women a bad bill of goods, even though every medium on earth was telling her otherwise. Second, she met her husband on Tinder. So let me get this straight. You were on a dating site that facilitates and is the engine of hookup culture looking for a husband, were you? You resisted all the dudes you matched with, didn't sleep with not one of them until you met your husband, did you? Look, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I do know this. She is either the greatest statistical anomaly of all time, or she's not telling us the whole story. And the empirical data, along with my experiences and stories I've seen and heard, tell me it's likely the latter. And this is the reason why Miss Ryan is not effective. People trust what I say about female nature because I've been through it all. My misadventures with women are well documented. I've been hurt, I've been cheated on, I've been used, all the rest of that. I was the king of simps, but I was able to come out of it with my freedom in my life, and that is at least 50% luck. But for Courtney to sit here and tell us that she didn't engage in hookup culture, even though she's very attractive and had plenty of opportunities and met her husband on the dating app that is known for hooking up, is suspect. Again, I'm not saying she's lying, but I'm willing to bet there's much more to the story than she's telling us. In the end, I ain't mad at Courtney. She's an attractive woman capitalizing on her sexual attractiveness, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is what women have done since the dawn of time. But taking what she says as gospel, even though she doesn't really say much of anything, what with her perpetual fence-sitting so as to not piss off the masses, is a waste of time. Now, what she is doing is better than most women out here, but let's not pretend that Courtney Ryan is a unicorn. She's not. That doesn't make her a bad person, but it does make her a terrible dating coach. That's all I got for you sons of bitches today. If you guys have a TikTok video or a video that you'd like for me to respond to, send it to my Instagram at DonovanSharp1, at DonovanSharp1. Till next time.